Country music in 2025 has taken a dark turn. Some legends are gone, others are behind bars. From shocking deaths to unexpected arrests, this year has revealed secrets fans never saw coming. In this video, we uncover 12 country stars who are either dead or in jail in 2025, and the truth behind each downfall will leave you speechless. Few in country music carry as much weight as Naomi Judd. By 2025, nearly 3 years had passed since her death in April 2022, yet her story was still being rewritten behind the scenes. Known for her powerhouse voice in the Judd's duo and later advocacy for mental health, Naomi's legacy seemed intact until late-breaking court filings revealed another story altogether. After her passing, a wave of legal battles emerged. Originally, Naomi's estate was expected to be split evenly between her daughters, Winona and Ashley. Instead, explosive filings from mid-2025 revealed that large portions of her assets, including publishing rights, royalties from hit albums like Why Not Me and key real estate, had been quietly diverted to an offshore trust managed by a Nashville law firm. The trust documents, kept under seal until now, disclose suspicious payouts tied to Naomi's final public appearances and speaking fees. But the deeper shock came from personal journals. A court-ordered excerpt from Naomi's private diaries, obtained during the dispute, recounted hidden trauma, including a note she'd written in 2021. "I can't protect them if I'm gone. I don't trust who's handling this." It appeared to reference not her daughters, but unnamed advisors, and perhaps even some in the Judd business circle who'd oversold contracts without Naomi's true knowledge. Then there was the final handwritten letter Naomi left behind, discovered by Ashley weeks after filing began. In it, she insisted all decisions be transparent and shared, adding ominously, "No more secrets." That letter never made it into court, raising questions. Did someone intervene, and why? Naomi Judd's death was never about who she'd lost, but who she left behind. And in 2025, as this story comes fully into view, it reveals a legacy at risk, a family fractured, and a cautionary tale about trust in the music world. Just a few years ago, Jimmy Allen was on top of the world. He was the first black solo country artist to launch a career with back-to-back #1 hits on country radio, a Grammy nominee, and a trailblazer in the industry. But by 2025, that golden image has collapsed entirely, replaced by courtroom sketches, sealed indictments, and a prison jumpsuit. It started in Fadifrite in 2023, when 2 former employees filed lawsuits accusing Allen of assault, coercion, and long-term abuse under the guise of professional mentorship. The allegations were graphic and deeply personal. At first, Allen denied everything, saying he was being extorted. But in 2024, text messages, audio recordings, and private NDAs were leaked online, revealing an underworld of manipulation and forced silence surrounding his touring crew. The evidence was damning. That same year, federal prosecutors stepped in. What started as a civil case morphed into a full-blown criminal investigation. Allen was accused of witness tampering and obstruction of justice. When it was revealed he allegedly paid off former staff to change their testimony. In late 2024, a grand jury indicted him on multiple federal counts, including fraud for misusing tour funds to hush accusations. By March 2025, Jimmy Allen was in custody awaiting trial. His family remained quiet. His record label cut ties, and fellow artists distanced themselves overnight. What was most shocking wasn't just the fall, but how fast it happened. A man who had been hailed as country music's next great hope was now sitting in a holding cell, awaiting a fate that could keep him behind bars for years. Allen's music may still stream, but the man behind it? In 2025, his name no longer echoes from award shows. It echoes in courtrooms. In 2025, Ray Cyrus isn't behind bars, but he's nowhere near the man fans remember from Achy Breaky Heart. The mullet, the charm, the country swagger. It's all faded into a storm of legal battles, family estrangement, and one heartbreaking loss that shook him to his core. It began with his whirlwind marriage to Australian singer Fire Rose in 2022. While the public saw it as a quirky late-in-life romance, those close to the Cyrus family saw cracks forming immediately. By 2024, Billy Ray's relationships with his children, especially Miley and Noah, were in shambles. Sources close to the family claimed the wedding was rushed, chaotic, and that Billy Ray had cut off communication with multiple family members over it. But what came next turned family tension into outright tragedy. In early 2025, Fire Rose filed for divorce, alleging emotional abuse and financial control. Court documents revealed Billy Ray had reportedly rewritten his will, funneled assets into private accounts, and isolated himself on a Tennessee property, rarely appearing in public. Then, just weeks after the divorce filing, Fire Rose was hospitalized after a reported suicide attempt, one linked by her legal team to the severe psychological distress caused by the marriage. Suddenly, the spotlight turned on Billy Ray, not as a country star, but as a man surrounded by accusations, betrayals, and financial secrecy. Reports emerged of unpaid taxes, hidden property disputes, and former managers claiming they'd been stiffed on payments going back years. Though no criminal charges have been filed, the word investigation began circling in tabloids and legal blogs. As of summer 2025, Billy Ray is isolated, heartbroken, and embroiled in lawsuits. His image? No longer the down-home cowboy, but a father at war with his legacy, his finances, and his own bloodline. When Mindy McCready burst onto the country music scene in the mid-1990s, she was more than just a rising star. She was the future of the genre. With her debut album, 10,000 Angels, going double platinum, she had the looks, the voice, and the charisma to dominate Nashville for decades. But behind the glamour was a storm brewing, a storm that would eventually consume her. Mindy's story is one of the most heartbreaking tales in country music history. Despite her early success, she quickly became tabloid fodder due to her turbulent personal life. Abusive relationships, addiction battles, legal troubles, and custody disputes constantly overshadowed her talent. She was in and out of jail, rehab, and the headlines, and yet fans hoped she'd somehow pull through. But in 2013, that hope was shattered. Mindy McCready was found dead on the same porch where the father of one of her children had taken his own life just 1 month prior. It was a double tragedy that stunned the nation. The official report listed suicide by gunshot. But even now, in 2025, not everyone believes that's the full story. Whispers never stopped. Some close to her claimed she was being followed in her final months, that she spoke of being watched, manipulated, even threatened. There were rumors of hidden diaries, hard drives wiped clean, and messages deleted after her death. One former associate even claimed she was working on an exposé about the dark side of the industry, the same exposé that allegedly disappeared after she passed. And now, more than a decade later, a private investigator tied to her family claims to have uncovered new information. Confidential emails, undisclosed phone records, and a long-missing voice memo have reportedly resurfaced, evidence that suggests Mindy feared for her life. Could it be that her death wasn't what it seemed? The mystery that haunted her final years may finally be coming to light in 2025. And if what's been uncovered is true, it changes everything we thought we knew about how Mindy McCready died. Toby Keith was more than just a country music star. He was a symbol of American pride, grit, and unapologetic patriotism. From the early 1990s through the 2000s, his anthems like Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue and American Soldier made him a household name. He didn't just sing about America, he lived it. But by 2025, the country music world was forced to say goodbye to this towering figure, and the full scope of what he endured in his final chapter has only now come to light. Keith had been battling stomach cancer for years, a fight he initially kept quiet. When he finally revealed his diagnosis in 2022, fans were stunned but hopeful. He continued to perform when he could, smiling through the pain and appearing in public with the same swagger that defined his career. But behind closed doors, the battle was brutal. Sources close to the family now say Toby was in extreme pain for months before his passing in early 2025. He was reportedly undergoing experimental treatments and even exploring international medical options in a desperate attempt to buy more time. Yet while he fought the disease with every ounce of strength, there were other battles too. Quiet ones involving his estate, his music catalog, and growing tension among former business partners. At the time of his death, Toby Keith's fortune was estimated to be over $300 million, including restaurants, a liquor brand, and songwriting royalties. But a legal war reportedly broke out within weeks of his passing, with distant relatives and corporate interests fighting over ownership of his empire. Some sources claim Keith had recently altered his will. Others say it mysteriously vanished before it could be filed. Now, in 2025, with lawsuits mounting and his legacy on the line, questions are being asked. Was Toby Keith prepared for the end? Was someone trying to benefit from his downfall? And why is his family staying so quiet? The truth about his final days and the war over what he left behind is starting to emerge. And it's not the kind of send-off the country legend deserved. Jackson Dean was country music's wild card. With his gritty voice, outlaw look, and explosive live performances, many believed he was the future of modern outlaw country. Hits like Don't Come Lookin' catapulted him into the spotlight fast. By 2023, Jackson was selling out arenas and being hailed as the genre's next great rebel. But just 2 years later, in 2025, that rising star came to a sudden, shocking halt because Jackson Dean was arrested and sent to prison. The arrest sent shockwaves through Nashville. It wasn't for something minor. It was federal. Authorities raided his Tennessee ranch in early January 2025, seizing illegal firearms, unregistered vehicles, and reportedly, a large sum of unaccounted cash. According to insiders, the feds had been investigating Jackson for months, suspecting he was connected to a group running illegal off-the-grid music festivals, events allegedly fueled by drugs, guns, and untraceable crypto payments. What stunned fans even more was how quickly it all fell apart. Jackson reportedly refused a plea deal, claiming he was being framed and calling the charges manufactured industry retaliation. Some say he made too many enemies too fast, clashing with label executives and promoters. Others believe Jackson was set up by someone inside his inner circle, someone who wanted to end his rise before he became too powerful. As of summer 2025, Jackson Dean is serving a sentence of at least 8 years. His once buzzing social media has gone dark. Rumors swirl about an unreleased album that may never see the light of day. And some fans have even launched a #FreeJacksonDean campaign. But the silence from his family and former team speaks volumes. A career that was supposed to define the next decade of country music now sits behind bars, and the real story of why may be even darker than fans imagine. Doug Supernaw's story is one of heartbreaking highs and lows. In the early 90s, he burst onto the country music scene with hits like I Don't Call Him Daddy and Reno, songs that showcased his rich Texas drawl and emotional depth. He quickly became a beloved figure among fans of traditional country, known for his cowboy swagger and deeply personal lyrics. But behind the scenes, Doug was battling demons that would follow him for the rest of his life. His career, which started so strong, took a nosedive after a series of personal and legal troubles. Supernaw struggled with substance abuse, erratic behavior, and arrests that tarnished his public image. He bounced between rehab and jail, and the country music industry, always quick to move on, eventually left him behind. By the 2000s, Doug was out of the spotlight entirely, battling both his addictions and financial ruin. In 2019, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung and bladder cancer. Doug faced it head-on, even reuniting with fans and giving a few final performances. Sadly, he passed away in November 2020 at just 60 years old. But in 2025, new details emerged from a family member who claimed Doug believed he was being watched and manipulated during his final years. Allegedly, he kept a journal detailing his fears about people in his circle siphoning off his money and blocking his comeback attempts. Now, those journals have surfaced, and they may finally shine a light on the real reasons behind his tragic downfall. Allan Coe, one of country music's most controversial figures, is still alive in 2025. But his story has taken a dark, complicated turn. Known for his outlaw image, gravelly voice, and boundary-pushing lyrics, Coe was never one to play by Nashville's rules. He rose to fame in the 70s and 80s with songs like You Never Even Called Me By My Name and The Ride. But his offstage behavior often overshadowed his music. Now in his 80s, Coe lives in relative obscurity, far from the spotlight he once chased. In recent years, whispers about his declining health, financial instability, and growing paranoia have only grown louder. Sources close to him claim he's become reclusive and distrustful, convinced that former associates and music execs swindled him out of millions. One longtime friend alleged that Coe believes his royalties were intentionally mismanaged, and he's been quietly battling in court to regain control of his catalog. As of 2025, Coe isn't in jail, but he's surrounded by mystery, lawsuits, and unanswered questions. Some insiders now wonder if the outlaw image he built was always real, or a carefully crafted distraction from deeper troubles that are finally coming to light. Bobbie Gentry remains one of the most haunting mysteries in the history of country music. In 2025, she is still alive at 82 years old, but her whereabouts and lifestyle continue to be a closely guarded secret. Once one of the most famous women in American music, Gentry disappeared from the public eye in the early 1980s at the peak of her fame. After hits like Ode to Billy Joe and Fancy, she simply vanished. No farewell tour, no interviews, no explanation. For decades, fans have speculated. Did she walk away to escape fame? Was she hiding from something or someone? What we now know paints a far more tragic and complex picture. Recently uncovered court documents and personal letters suggest Gentry may have faced intense legal battles, mental health struggles, and financial manipulation by those closest to her. Insiders have hinted that Gentry lost control of large portions of her catalog, and even her estate, through quiet legal agreements pushed during her most vulnerable years. Multiple sources claim she lives in a gated community near Memphis, shielded by family, rarely seen, and almost never heard from. Yet her silence may not be voluntary. Some believe Bobbie was pushed into isolation, pressured to sign away rights, stifled by those who stood to gain. In 2025, her story still doesn't have a neat ending. But one thing is clear. Bobbie Gentry didn't just walk away from fame. She may have been forced out. Billie Joe Shaver was the outlaw poet who gave country music its grit. Known for penning classics like Honky Tonk Heroes for Waylon Jennings, he lived a life as raw and real as the songs he wrote. But in 2025, the world still feels the absence he left behind. Billie Joe passed away in October 2020 at the age of 81, leaving behind a trail of heartbreak, hard-earned wisdom, and more questions than answers. His death was officially listed as the result of a stroke, but those who knew him say his decline had been coming for years, chipped away by years of personal tragedy, illness, and emotional weight that never fully lifted. Shaver had survived more than most: the loss of his wife Brenda, his son Eddie, a brilliant guitarist who died of a heroin overdose, and a near-fatal heart attack in 2001. Yet, through it all, he kept writing and performing. Financially, Shaver struggled. Despite being one of country music's most respected songwriters, he never saw the level of royalties or comfort that many of his peers enjoyed. Rumors persist that shady management deals and unpaid royalties bled his catalog dry over the decades, leaving him with far less than what his talent deserved. In his final years, he lived modestly in Waco, Texas, surrounded by a small circle of friends and fans who never stopped believing in him. His last recordings were sparse, reflective, and tinged with pain. Now, as 2025 unfolds, Shaver's legacy is being re-examined, not just for his music, but for the injustices he endured. The mystery isn't about how he died, but about why someone who shaped the very sound of outlaw country never got his full due. Billie Joe Shaver gave everything to country music, but in return, the industry gave him heartbreak, and a legacy that only now is starting to be fully appreciated. Morgan Wallen, once hailed as the future of modern country music, has become one of its most controversial and tragic figures by 2025. After skyrocketing to fame with chart-topping albums like Dangerous and One Thing at a Time, Wallen's rise seemed unstoppable. His voice was everywhere, on the radio, in viral TikToks, selling out stadiums. But behind the fame was a pattern of self-destruction, bad decisions, and a storm of legal and personal issues that would eventually derail his career. What began with a video of a drunken racial slur in 2021 spiraled into a string of increasingly erratic public incidents. In 2024, everything came to a head when Wallen was arrested following a violent altercation at a Nashville bar. Multiple charges, including assault and resisting arrest, led to a lengthy court battle. Combined with multiple rehab stints and a lawsuit over broken tour contracts, the once beloved singer was facing public backlash, legal battles, and deep personal demons. As of 2025, Wallen is currently serving a short jail sentence while awaiting trial for a separate federal charge involving drugs found in his tour bus, allegations his lawyers deny, but that insiders say may be linked to an old circle of enablers he never managed to shake. Even more disturbing, sources close to Wallen claim the pressure and isolation took a psychological toll. He reportedly lost custody of his child during the legal chaos, and his finances, once flush with touring revenue, have dwindled due to mounting legal fees, fines, and abandoned endorsements. While fans continue to support him online, the industry has quietly distanced itself. In 2025, Morgan Wallen's story is no longer just about talent. It's about how fame without guidance and wounds left unhealed can destroy even the brightest stars. Stonewall Jackson, one of the Grand Ole Opry's longest-running members, carried the spirit of traditional country music on his back for decades. Born in 1932, Jackson became a staple of the genre in the late 1950s and 60s with hits like Waterloo and Don't Be Angry. His voice was unmistakable, full of old-school twang and spiritual conviction. But in 2025, nearly 4 years after his passing in December 2021, at the age of 89, his name has once again returned to headlines, not because of his music, but because of the troubling truths that came to light after his death. Stonewall died quietly in Nashville, reportedly from vascular dementia. But in the years since, a series of legal documents, family interviews, and estate disputes have revealed that his final years were marked by confusion, neglect, and a painful disconnect between the legacy he built and the treatment he received. In a stunning twist, it was revealed that Stonewall had sued the Grand Ole Opry in 2008 for age discrimination, claiming he was being pushed off the stage he helped make famous. Though the case was later settled, the bitterness never fully faded. He felt forgotten, cast aside by an industry he helped build. What's more, his estate was thrown into legal chaos after his passing. Financial documents surfaced showing years of unpaid royalties and mismanaged funds. Jackson, who had lived modestly for much of his career, should have had more to show for his decades of touring and radio success. His wife, Juanita, who died in 2019, had served as his manager and closest ally, and some now claim that after her passing, Stonewall was left vulnerable to manipulation and isolation. There were no children to carry on his legacy, and his estate has since become a quiet battleground for distant relatives and former associates. His Nashville home was reportedly sold under questionable circumstances, and his personal belongings, stage outfits, handwritten lyrics, and vintage instruments were scattered, auctioned off with little care for the history they carried. As we close this video, reflecting on 12 country stars who are either gone or incarcerated in 2025, Stonewall Jackson's story is a sobering reminder of how quickly a legacy can be forgotten, and how even legends can be left behind. Some died too young, others crumbled under the weight of their fame, and a few, like Jackson, were slowly erased by an industry more interested in the next big thing than preserving the roots of its past. But if there's one thing country music fans know, it's how to keep a memory alive. These names, these stories, they deserve to be remembered, not just for their hits, but for their humanity. And now in 2025, we finally have the full picture. The truth may not be pretty. In fact, it isn't good, but it's real. And for fans of true country music, that's all that matters.